Kuchanguza saisa za Kenya kutoka ughaibuni. I hope I said that correctly. Observing Kenyan politics from the diaspora. Now, I want to start off by prefacing that this is not a video to tell you who you should like, who you should not like, who you should vote for, or who you shouldn't vote for. I'm going to give you guys my perspective as a diasporan who grew up here in the US, spent all my life here, most of my life, right? And recently got really, really interested into politics in both here in the US and in Kenya. But today we're going to focus on Kenya, right? Now, I think the best place to start is my history with politics. So, like I said, for the most part, I've never really been into politics, right? I would honestly say that within the last year or two, for both the US and Kenya, is what really hooked me into politics. For the US was the whole thing with Trump and Biden and Kamala, that whole election, because it was very, very heated, very emotionally driven. I would say that was probably the most one of our most emotionally driven elections here in the U.S. And then in Kenya, what hooked me was the Gen Z protests with the finance bill and all that from June 27th or July, one of those days, June or July 27th, 26th. You guys know what I'm talking about, right? Now, for the most part, how I viewed politics was like it was so distant. It was something that doesn't affect me, right? Because when you're young, you're worried about your direct issues. You're worried about, dang, I need to buy a car. Oh my gosh, I want these sneakers. I want this. I want that. But as you get older, you start to actually understand that, okay, hold on. These decisions that are being made right now, one, affect me more as a young person. No, they'll affect me more in the long term as a young person than they will for the older generation and the people who are in those politics. So it made me start understanding and assessing everything. Like when I hear of corruption, back then to me, corruption was just something as simple as like, oh, they're stealing money. But then when you start to understand and unravel the string, and you're like, okay, they're stealing money. Where's this money coming from? And then you're like, okay, some of this money is already our money that we've made. But also at the same time, a lot of this money is money that we borrowed. So you pull a little bit further and further on that string, and you come to realize, okay, so that money that was stolen from what we borrowed, who's paying that back? And then I look around the room and I'm like, that's me. It's me who's paying that back, right? And for me, when I look at like Kenya in general, I'm like, okay, I'm 26. The loans that are being taken back now that have a payback period of uh, 20 years, 10 years, 15 years, and everything, for the most part, they will be paid back by my generation. Okay. So I'm like, okay, so this does affect me. The corruption is not just as simple as somebody stole money which they shouldn't have. No, it actually affects everyone. It affects everyone in the sense of we all have to pay back these stolen loans from our taxes. It affects us in the sense of when you go to pay your taxes or you go to buy something, you are paying for the luxury life of this politician or this president or this MP or this person, ABCD. So that really drew me in because it was just like, okay, this affects me a lot more than I actually like expected or than I actually thought it did. And I was like, okay, so the Gen Z protest stuff are happening, but like, where do I even start to understand this from? So that led me, obviously, to YouTube. It started off with like just watching different personalities online, different people who would give their own take, but that got drawn out because those people were either biased to their own understanding, biased to their own tribe, their own clan, their own connections, meaning if they're tied into the government and everything. And I started looking further and I was like, okay, I want unfiltered observations. I want unfiltered positions. Now, are you going to get something that's truly, purely unfiltered, like the purest water that you could drink? No, everyone has their biases. Everyone has their own preconceived notions of a president or a party or a group of people. They have their own preconceived notions of all these different things. So, what that led me to was jumping around from different creators. And I'll give you an example. I pulled up like a few different channels that today from the US I observe pretty frequently and I watch. And the reason I use multiple different channels is because as the more you watch one person, the more you start to understand like, okay, you lean here. But at the same time, I'm like, okay, it's okay for you to lean here, but can you also criticize here while you criticize there? Can you call out this person that you like a little bit more for their BS and their wrongdoings the same way that you freely call out your opposition and all that? So, a few examples of people that I watch. One is Herman Manure. From my understanding, he's a professor, right? And he does these sit downs with a few of these younger guys that I guess he's trained or he's taught. And he's respected of his opinion because he's an older man. And that's one thing that comes into this. One thing I've learned is that the even though you may look at the older people as part of the problems that we are dealing with. They were there when these things were happening. They were part and parcel of all the issues that we see today. You were there in the beginning. Why didn't you stop it? Type of things, right? But the reason I respect like his opinion is he's been here long enough to see the different presidents, to see the different parties and everything. And the reason to me that's important, it's like you're you you saw the transitions, you saw the befores, you saw the afters, you saw the durings, you saw how this party unraveled and formed into this one, and then he's also able to explain how what's it called, how certain events within Kenya's history still affect us now, or this coup, this party coup that happened in the 1990s, or this situation with these two tribes, how they still affect us today. So I value his opinion. Another person I watch is Plug TV, right? For example, I watched Plug TV earlier today, and the topic was breaking Ruto dares MPs to impeach him through CS, Wandai, etc., right? And for me, I'm like, dang, posted 15, 16 hours ago, 84,000 views. One thing I can definitely say is Kenyans love politics. Like even when I was in Kenya, you would hear people just casually always discussing politics a lot more than I would say Americans do. In the sense of like, here people shout at each other. People don't actually have conversations. It's, you're a Trump supporter, you're a Kamala supporter, you're a liberal, you're conservative. We can't talk. Like it's a shouting match. I'm not saying that the same doesn't exist in Kenya, but I hear a lot more actual conversations from the Kenyan side, right? And then for like this video that I just said, Ruto daring MPs to impeach him, right? Like I start back from June or July, the what's it called? The protests. And I'm like, I got to witness Kenya's first impeachment from Gachagua and everything. And for me, during that time, the way I observe it, even till today, I'm like, both of them should have gone. I don't see how, what's it called? Two people got into a house together, and and then now it's painted as if, oh, as long as we get rid of Gachagua, the problem's gone. No, you guys were the problem together. You guys need to go together. And for me, the reason this thought process comes through is my history. The few positions of power I held were mainly within sports, right? I was always, I was a captain of both soccer and lacrosse. and swimming. I don't know if I was captain. Was I captain of swimming? I think I was captain. No, I wasn't captain in the swim team. I was captain of soccer and lacrosse for my last 2 years of high school for both of them. So being in a position where you're the leader, I was always called called on by the referees. So let's say, for example, one of your teammates is playing rough. One of your teammates is doing illegal things, doing things that they shouldn't be. One of your teammates is cussing out, or two people have a fight on the field, right? Usually, what the referee does is they call both captains over and they tell you to handle it. They tell you go back, what's it called? Hey, they'll pull you to the side and they'll be like, look, you need to talk to your team. They need to stop this heckling. Even sometimes if it's what's it called, people from the bench, or if it's people in the crowds, the referees would call the captains over to handle their group. So for me, when I saw Ruto impeach Gachagua, I was like, you don't try to throw one under the bus. No, you're the head of the what's it called? You're the head of the house. You're the head of everything. Trying to put the blame on one person is not how it works. It's never been how it works in a sense. Like imagine me as a captain going to the referee and being like, "It's not my fault. It's the defender. It's like I didn't tell him to what's it called? You look dumb. You're like, no, that's your team. You go handle it. You're the head. Go handle it, right? Now, at the same time, I never had a history of watching Kenyan politics from the past. I started, if I'm being honest, I started watching Kenyan politics from last year. Last year. So, all this past history of what's happened in the past and everything, I had never had any emotional ties into it. The only time I got tied into it emotionally was seeing young people like myself getting killed in the streets for protesting. That's when I was like, I'm against this because if I didn't grow up in the US, guess what? I would have most likely been out there with those young people. And guess what? It could have been me who was shot and killed in the streets for protesting, something that's legal in Kenya. So for me, I looked at that whole situation. I was like, this can't go on. And then I started looking deeper, unraveling the strings of what's it called? Of corruption. And I was like, wait, this affects me. If I move back to Kenya, which I was already thinking of last year, if I move back to Kenya, that's those loans that are being stolen are coming out of my pocket. There was this, all that stuff. I started to understand. I'm like, this affects me a lot more than I had thought before, right? But overall, I right now stand on the side of both of them should have been gone. Even looking at politics coming up, I don't want to see either of them. If they want to back up somebody else, go ahead. But for me, both of them should have been gone together. Not one, two. They came in as two, they should have left as two. Another person I watch is Rogers Kakasungura. I love this guy. He shoots from the hip in the sense of he calls out Ruto left and right. He's not scared to, what's it called? He calls out this party, he calls out that party. And at the same time, he's just raw. I don't know. I like his videos. They're usually short. They're like 9:49 minutes and something like under 10 minutes. And he gets straight to the point. Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to the Kakasungura YouTube channel. Yeah, I watch him way too much. Another person I watch is Lynn Goge. I watch her for the interviews she does. I love her interviews because they're usually deep dives. Sometimes when you get a politician who goes on a news network, usually they're like showing up as a politician. But if you get the average Kenyan or like a business person and you get them to sit down and dive deep into a topic, into a issue, you get to learn more about the person from a 1 hour, 2 hour sit down. You get to learn a lot more. So whenever she interviews people relating to Kenyan issues, Kenyan politics, I'm usually very tuned in, right? And then another person is Ikonini podcast. For example, there's a video I need to go watch right now, which was posted 32 minutes ago. Ruto Raila's deal to cancel 2027 elections. You see, when I hear that, I'm like, is this clickbait? Are they actually trying to cancel elections? Because for me, that just sounds so far left. But we're talking about Kenya. Anything can happen. But yeah, Ikonini, I like his videos covering many, many aspects of Kenyan issues from politics to music to this to that. And another one, David Wafula. I love his videos too. All these people are pretty big channels. Like on average, these people are doing like 30,000 views, 40,000 views, 50,000. Some of them, like I just said, the other one, what was it? Plug TV Kenya. 16 hours ago, 84,000 views. That's pretty good. That's a. These people are making money. They're making money. Yeah, making money. But and then on oh, I almost forgot to mention Spice FM. Spice FM with the morning talk show and everything. I love their videos as well. But overall, that's what a 26-year-old observing Kenyan politics from the diaspora looks like. It starts from having no interest, having no clue, having no history of what Kenyan politics is. But growing up around a lot of Kenyans, I've always noticed that the older parents, whenever you're gathering, they're having tea, they're having chai, politics always comes up. They're always deep into some issues in Kenya. They're always so intrigued. They're always so interested. And I used to look at that and I was like, do y'all not have anything better in life to discuss? And here I am, myself as a 26-year-old, constantly watching politics, getting so deep and ingrained into it. Another thing about politics that I picked up on is the whole tribalism issue. You see, like, just looking at Kenya from the outside, one might not be able to see how tribalism transpires, right? And I made a video about this earlier, not earlier, like a few weeks ago, maybe like a month or two ago, about tribalism and how I view it from the diaspora. In that video, I basically concluded that when I observe it, it only or mostly transpires within politics. That's usually where you see tribalism come in. And then at the same time, I watch a lot of foreigners who come to Kenya. And for example, like there's an influx of African Americans coming to Kenya right now. And then a lot of them will say things like they don't see the tribalism, they hear of these tribal wars, but they don't see it. And I start to understand them because I'm like, if you don't actually get into the politics, if you don't watch politicians going on air and this and the other, you would not see it. You would not be able to feel it. You're walking the streets of Nairobi, a Kenyan is a Kenyan, especially to a foreigner, a Kenyan is a Kenyan. They don't see tribe. They don't hear tribe. They don't even know what languages are being spoken to them. They hear Swahili and they hear some other language. But like that was the same for me. I started to really understand tribalism when I got into politics because you're watching something. And for example, I'm Kikuyu, no shame in where I am or where I come from. So technically, I would be considered uh, part of the mountain, right? And when I watch the politics and what's it called, I would argue that the general consensus in the country, a lot of people, from what I've seen, especially from Gen Z, a lot of people, regardless of what tribe you're from, they don't like the current government as a whole. Not just Ruto, not just this. They don't like the whole government. They're displeased with what's going on. And then for me, I'm like, okay, I understand. What's going on is not good. There's a lot of chaos going on in Kenya. And then I watch what's it called? A politician go up and say, "Oh, the what's it called? The all this opposition is only from the mountain." Like I said, I am Kikuyu, shamelessly, right? So for me, I'm like, as little tribalism that's I've had in me, right? Because growing up in the U.S., a Kenyan to me is a Kenyan. The same way an American comes to Kenya and they see one Kenyan as the other. That's how it was for me growing up here. For me, I didn't care. I didn't even care to find out what tribe you are until I got older at this age and I started looking into politics, right? But for me, when I hear things like, "Oh, it's only mountain people who don't like the government," I'm like, That's not what I'm seeing. When I look online, everyone is in opposition. Everyone here, right? Odinga, this and the other, right? So, in a sense, it's like it's almost putting tribalism into you when you start to understand how things in Kenya work. Like I told you before, I had no understanding of anything. But then when I'm watching things and then you see your community get called out for something that's a general sentiment around the country, you almost flip into that tribalism mode and you want to be like, wait, no, it's not my people. But that's the maturity part of trying to stay neutral to understand it. Like I said from the beginning, the reason I watch multiple channels is to make sure that I get multiple perspectives. But understanding how politics in Kenya have always been played, they've always been played from a tribal perspective and from a tribal narrative. So seeing the continuation of that is like it helps me understand why people get into their groups because you have one politician talking on behalf of my community. You have another politician talking on behalf of their community, right? Instead of someone talking on behalf of Kenya as a whole. And that's the problem. A lot of these older politicians approach Kenyan issues from their community perspective. And as someone who didn't even grow up in that tribal soup, even being on the outside and then now getting into politics and understanding it, you're almost immediately drawn to be with your tribe because that's human nature. So, as I get deeper and deeper into politics and understand them, my channel is not going to be about politics whatsoever. My channel is about Jimmy. My channel is about Jimmy. But as I move to Kenya and I start to try to get into business and everything, politics is going to affect me whether I like it or not. This idea of being outside and me, I don't care about politics. No, that's not reality. At the end of the day, it's going to affect me and everything. So, with the elections coming up in 2027, I hope, I hope to see. I don't even know because if I'm being real, I'm just like, yo, we are so deep into our natural ways of doing things, but at the same time, you're seeing the big fire of Gen Z not following the old ways of our parents, which I love to see. But at the same time, the people who currently run it, the people who are currently in it, are still stuck in a lot of those old ways. And like I said earlier, when I see, what's it called? When I see Ruto blaming other people or even people in his own cabinet, like so, for example, that video today from Plug TV of Ruto daring MPs to impeach him through CS Wandai and all that. When I was watching that video, it was like approaching the issues of the country, not even from you have any responsibility. I told you I was a captain. That's as high of a leadership position I wrote. Obviously, I was in higher positions, whether in school clubs and all this stuff, even in college and different things. Right? I don't respect someone who doesn't own the issues when you're in a position of leadership. I've been in positions of leadership, and you have to own what you are, what comes out from your leadership. If my team was causing trouble and starting fights with other teams, I had to make a decision to what's it called? To ask the coach to bench this player for a few minutes, bring them back. But at the same time, I had to own it on behalf of the team, to the coaches, to the what's it called, to the referees and everything. So as politics continues and everything, I still jump from channel to channel to channel to channel to understand everything on the whole and to observe, okay, so this is how it's been played. This is why this narrative is being pushed. Okay, so this is how people try to divide. You're going to try to paint this group as this, that group as that. And then I'm seeing even like Gen Z, for example, people who've disowned Raila, people who've disowned Ruto, people who've disowned Gachagua, people who've disowned whatever. Like, for me, I love seeing that because from what I understand, for the longest, Kenyan politics has been the same people in a big pot of soup just shuffling. They just shuffle each other. They just shuffle, and this one used to be part of this party. Then they ended up in this party. Then they ended up back in this party. Then they formed a new party. And it's the same faces from 1990, 1980, 19 whatever. But like I said, this is not a chance. This is not a video to tell you who to like, to tell you to like Ruto or not like him. I'm giving you guys an honest insight into how a diaspora and 26-year-old who just started getting interested into politics is observing what's going on in Kenya. And that's the end of the video. I hope you guys enjoyed. I hope you guys can understand my perspective, being I've never been interested in this stuff. But from recent months and from January 27th or 26th, the protest, Jimmy was like, all right, we're in this now. We are in this. We're a part of this. This affects me. This affects you. This affects everyone. But that's the end of the video. If you disagree with me, drop it in the comment. If you think I'm a fool for my stance or for my observations, drop that in the comments as well. Like I said, honesty. This is an honest observation into how I see politics from someone who just got into it. Let me know what you think in the comments. I love y'all. See y'all on the next one. Hit the like, subscribe, and take care. Bye.